All right, folks, so I'm finally getting around to putting the cowl shoulders back on this 67 Chevelle here. Had it all torn apart. You may have seen some of the other videos where I had to do some customization around this cowl shoulder here. This is a factory AC car. They don't make this particular piece for an AC car, so I basically just took a cowl shoulder for a non-AC car. It would have just had the little blower hole here, the blower circle, and cut that away and basically used the bottom half of that cowl shoulder up in this area. So got that all put into place. I had to actually splice it in with the kick panel area here. Again, this is part of the AC on the car. And then while I had the cowl shoulder panels off, this panel that goes right around here, I was able to get in and sandblast this entire cowl assembly. And so one of the things that I wanted to do before I put the panel back on here, because you do lose a little bit of access getting in here with your paint gun, is I wanted to make sure that I got everything up in here epoxy primed, and then I'm just using a hot rod black paint. I'm actually using something from Medallion Refinishing Systems. I like a lot of their products. I will say this much, is if we want to talk just a little bit about the satin black or the hot rod black that they have, it's a little bit more sheen than I would have liked to have had. I would have preferred more of a 0-degree sheen. So I think what I'll do the next time I mix this up, at least for the firewall here and the inner fenders and the core support, kind of this whole under hood area, is I think I'm going to go ahead and use my flattening agent, and I'm going to knock down that sheen just a hair more. So I'm going to do a little bit of experimentation with that. But for today, I wanted to get the fenders hung on the car because I'm working on the door gaps now that I've got the door skins put onto the shells, and I've got the gaps, or at least the alignment of the door the way that I like it. I'm actually working on the gaps. But one of the things that I thought is, you know what, maybe I better go ahead and get this cowl shoulder panel put on here just to make sure that everything's good and solid here. So I actually started to hang that fender over there and decided that I better go ahead and get these shoulders put in. So that's what we're going to work on now. I've basically just got reproduction. I think these are AMD. One might be AMD, the other one might not be. I can't remember. Some of the pieces came with the car when I bought it. But this is the cowl shoulder panel, I guess is what I'll call it, that outer panel. I've scuffed and epoxied the backside. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I like to scuff that EDP coating in here and then apply epoxy. So I've got the backside coated. So really the next step here is I'm just going to slap it up on here, and I'm going to get it into place, and I'm going to clamp it or sheet metal screw it in place. I'm going to mark where I want to put my spot welds, and then I'll take the panel off and scuff it up to bare metal and use my weld through primer, and then I'll put it back on, and then we'll spot weld it in place. So no big deal here. I just wanted to just show what it looked like real quick before I closed it up. And again, I left everything off of here because it makes it a lot easier to do a lot of your detail work up into the cowl assembly. I was able to come in here and seam seal those seams there, those sheet metal seams. So anyway, we're going to get this all put back together. I'll come back here just a second when I have it up on here ready to weld. Okay, so I've got the outer cowl shoulder panel, whatever you want to call it, all put together here and in place. I've gone through and scuffed or ground the EP coating away from the areas that I want to put my spot welds. And in between these two pieces of metal here, I've ground those down as well and applied weld through primer. So fit in there pretty good. I had to do just a little bit of work on the panel itself. No big surprise on these aftermarket panels. This area here is going to end up getting some seam sealer. So this is really no big deal. And then I went ahead and put some punches around the perimeter of the panel. So I'll come in and plug weld those. I've got a couple here. I've got a plug weld there. Looks like there's going to be a plug weld here. And then in this area here, I'm just going to go ahead and drill some holes, and then I'll plug weld that in place. But everywhere else around this perimeter here, where you see I've got the coating stripped away here, I'm just going to use my spot welder. I've got some basically tight fit tongs here that are going to work really well when I get over here in this door jamb area. So I'm going to get that all good to go. If you don't have a spot welder, there's absolutely nothing wrong with punching holes or drilling holes around the periphery of the panel and then just plug welding it. So no big deal there if you don't have a spot welder. You just have to do a little bit of finish work to grind those welds down. So we're going to get this all set up and ready to go here, and then we'll come over and we'll just finish this driver's side as well. So I've got this all prepped, so you can see how I do this before I put the panel on. I basically have ground down in certain areas. I just kind of mark where I want my spot welds to be, and then I grind it down, then I scuff the entire piece, and then I just come through with my weld through primer and shoot the entire thing. So do the same thing here on this surface, and it should work just fine. So we'll get the other panel stuck up here as soon as I get the passenger side welded in. Just finished welding in the cowl shoulder panels, and everything looks great. It fit just like it should. So yeah, as I was saying earlier, I put a few plug welds in here on the top side of the panel, right in here. And I basically just kind of followed the same pattern that the factory did when they spot welded them in. Underneath the windshield channel here, you can see that I plug welded, I think 3 spots there. Plug welded again right in this area, and then I think I put 4 or 5 plug welds just up in that area of the panel. And then I spot welded along the sides here. Turned out pretty well. It's easy to get to with my spot welder that I have. Again, if you don't have a spot welder, no big deal, just plug weld it. Not a problem at all. You just have a little bit more metal work to do. Well, grinding work to do. I shouldn't say metal work, but you know, you'll have to clean those welds up and get those dressed up. So that's the driver's side. And then over here, this is an AC car. So I've had a heck of a time just from the very beginning of this project, making all of these panels the way that they need to be for AC. I kicked around the idea of vintage air and basically taking the bead roller and making a block off plate here, just kind of smoothing that firewall out. But I think just for the sake of originality, I'm going to go ahead and go back with the original AC unit in this car. I'll refurbish it and go from there. But yeah, I really did think about the vintage air approach. I can't say that I've ruled that out completely, but I'm going to go ahead and plan on the factory stuff. If I don't go factory, Vintage Air sells a kit that has block-off plates for this area here, and then the other areas here, there's all block-off plates. But again, I probably would just fabricate my own panel. I'd probably bead roll it, put a little bit of profile into the panel so it had kind of a cool look. So same thing on this side though, just plug welded it. Very similar pattern to what the factory used up on the top side, up underneath here into the channel, the window channel, and then again the sides here all welded in place. So anyway, yeah, this has been a big project. I'm happy that I'm finally done with it. It started with replacing the kick panels inside here, as well as the kick panel braces, which are basically these brackets down in that area. If it's focusing in there, those brackets can be replaced. So anyway, pretty big project, not for the light of heart. I'd also on this side put an entire new hinge pillar in the car. So at one point in time, I had this thing completely stripped down. It was just held together with some bracing, and I had this all apart too. Up inside of here, the new rockers, the new hinge pillar is back in there. So anyway, I've got it all put together. Happy with the way that it turned out. Again, pretty big project, but this car is getting a complete overhaul. So anyway, that's pretty much it for these cowl shoulders and the kick panel.